Rain tapped lightly on Jayden Carter's hoodie as he stepped out of the community library, its warm light fading behind him. His backpack sagged with notebooks, curriculum drafts, scholarship forms, printouts full of equations and lesson plans. He had spent hours preparing for tomorrow's youth workshop, the one he hoped would change lives the way a teacher once changed his. But the moment he crossed the parking lot, red and blue lights splintered the night. "Hey!" a harsh voice snapped. "You, stop right there." Jayden froze. A tall white officer approached, jaw clenched, boots heavy on wet pavement. Officer Kincaid. He didn't even try to hide the suspicion already burning in his eyes. "What are you doing out here this late?" Kincaid demanded. Jayden lifted his hands slightly, calm but uneasy. "Just finished tutoring." "Tutoring?" The officer scoffed. "Right. And I'm the mayor. Let me guess. Another dropout hanging around places he doesn't belong." The word struck harder than the cold rain. Jayden's pulse kicked. He swallowed the sting, knowing too well how these encounters spiraled. "Sir," he said softly, "I'm not." "I don't care what story you rehearsed," Kincaid barked. "Empty your bag." Jayden hesitated, just long enough for fear to flicker through him. Then Kincaid's hand moved to his holster. Jayden inhaled sharply. In the distance, a car door slammed, then hurried footsteps. Someone called out, but Jayden couldn't see who. The world narrowed to the officer's shadow stretching toward him, long and cold against the pavement. And then, a voice cut through the dark. "Officer Kincaid, what are you doing?" Jayden turned, and recognition turned his stomach. Jayden Carter hadn't realized how late it had gotten until he saw his reflection in the dark library window. Hoodie damp from the drizzle, eyes tired, shoulders sagging under the weight of his backpack. Inside, the community library lights flickered as staff prepared to close. He stepped into the cool night air, pulling his hood slightly forward to shield the drizzle. He took 3 steps across the parking lot before red and blue lights slashed across the pavement. "Hey! You, stop right there." The command cracked through the quiet like breaking glass. Jayden stiffened, turning slowly. Officer Kincaid strode toward him, boots striking the pavement with heavy certainty. Jayden lifted his hands a little. "Evening, officer." Kincaid's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing out here this late?" "Just finished tutoring," Jayden said gently. "I run a..." Kincaid barked a laugh. "Tutoring? Sure you do. Let me guess. Another dropout wandering around where he doesn't belong." The word hit harder than Jayden expected. He swallowed. "Sir, I'm not." "Save it." Kincaid gestured sharply. "Backpack. Open it." Jayden hesitated. Not out of defiance, out of fear. Kincaid stepped closer. "Did I stutter?" "No, sir," Jayden said quietly. He unzipped the backpack, revealing stacks of lesson plans, worksheets, colored markers, scholarship forms, a half-eaten granola bar. Kincaid snorted. "What's all this supposed to be?" "Materials," Jayden replied. "I tutor kids. Math mostly. Some science. I volunteer here on weeknights." "Kids," Kincaid repeated, voice twisting with disbelief. "Right. Because you're such a model student, huh?" "I graduated already," Jayden said. Kincaid's brows shot up. "From where?" "A disciplinary program." Jayden's breath hitched. "From Lincoln High. Early." Kincaid leaned in, face inches away. "Don't get smart with me." "I'm not," Jayden murmured. A faint voice called from behind them. "Officer, is everything okay?" Ms. Rowell, the assistant librarian, stood near the doorway holding an umbrella. Her voice was polite but unsteady. Kincaid didn't bother to look at her. "Fine, ma'am. Just addressing suspicious behavior." She frowned. "Suspicious? That's just Jayden. He tutors the younger students." "I didn't ask for your commentary," Kincaid snapped. Ms. Rowell flinched and stepped back inside. Jayden watched her go, heart sinking. She had tried and backed down instantly. He didn't blame her. So, Kincaid said, returning his focus. You expect me to believe you're some kind of genius? A gifted scholar walking around at midnight? Yeah, right. Jayden forced himself to breathe. I'm just trying to help kids who need. Enough. Kincaid waved a dismissive hand. You got ID. Jayden nodded and slowly reached for his wallet. Kincaid grabbed his wrist mid-motion. Slow, he warned. Real slow. Jayden repeated the motion painstakingly. He handed over his ID. Kincaid examined it, scoffing under his breath. You're barely 17. 18, Jayden corrected softly. My birthday was in. I don't care. Kincaid flicked the ID back toward him. You don't look like any tutor I've ever seen. Jayden bit down on the inside of his cheek. Sir, I don't want trouble. I just want to go home. Oh, you'll go home, Kincaid replied. After I file a report. Maybe the school district will finally keep an eye on you. I'm not in school anymore, Jayden said again. Kincaid ignored him. What were you really doing in there? Meeting someone? Stealing equipment? Using the Wi-Fi for something illegal? What? No. Jayden shook his head. Everything in my bag is for tomorrow's workshop. It's a STEM class. You, Kincaid scoffed. Teaching. That's rich. That's. A new voice cut in sharply. Officer Kincaid, what are you doing? The tone carried authority, controlled, steady. Jayden turned. A man stepped out from a nearby car. Mr. Lopez, the library's evening security guard. Older, soft-spoken, usually invisible in the background. Kincaid stiffened slightly. Handling a situation. Lopez folded his arms. Jayden isn't a situation. He volunteers here. Every week. Kincaid's jaw tightened. You saying I'm wrong? I'm saying he belongs here, Lopez replied calmly. Jayden felt something flicker inside him. Something like fragile hope. Kincaid stepped so close his breath warmed Jayden's ear. Next time you want to play teacher, he muttered. Do it somewhere that doesn't make you look guilty. Jayden whispered. I'm not guilty of anything. Kincaid smirked. We'll see. He walked away, boots echoing across the wet pavement, leaving Jayden standing in the harsh glow of the patrol lights. Lopez approached him gently. You okay? Jayden nodded, though his hands trembled. Yeah, I think so. But as Kincaid drove off, tires slicing through puddles, Jayden knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Not even close. Jayden walked home with his hood pulled tight, each street lamp flickering like it was struggling to stay awake. The drizzle had turned into a soft, steady curtain of rain, and by the time he reached his porch, his backpack felt twice as heavy, not from water, but from everything Officer Kincaid had said. He pushed open the door quietly, hoping to slip inside unnoticed. No chance. His mother looked up from the kitchen table the second the door creaked. Denise Carter had a sixth sense for her son's moods. Her eyes narrowed, reading his expression before he even spoke. Jay, she said softly. What happened? Jayden tried to shrug it off. Nothing. Just, library ran late. Jayden. Her voice lowered, steady but firm. Come sit. He exhaled and dropped his backpack beside a chair. The rain drummed softly against the window as he sat across from her. She scanned his face, her worry visible. Which officer was it? Jayden's chest tightened. Kincaid. Her eyes closed for a long moment. Again. Yeah. She leaned back, hands clasped. What did he do this time? Jayden hesitated. Stopped me in the parking lot. Searched my bag. Called me a dropout. Her jaw set. He what? He said I looked suspicious. Said I didn't belong there. Jayden forced a half smile. Same script as always. That's not a script, Denise said. That's harassment. Jayden didn't answer. He stared at the table, watching a droplet from his sleeve fall and splatter across the wood. Denise reached out, covering his hand with hers. Baby, you shouldn't be dealing with this. You're working so hard, giving so much. Jayden's voice cracked slightly. That doesn't matter to people like him. It matters to me, she said. To your students. To their parents. To the community center. You're changing kids' lives. Yeah, he said quietly. But he didn't see any of that. He just saw me. Denise squeezed his hand gently. And what did you see? Jayden hesitated. Fear. Anger. I don't know. I tried to stay calm. Tried not to make it worse. You shouldn't have to calculate how to survive a conversation, she said. Jayden looked down again. Maybe I should cancel tomorrow's workshop. Her eyes widened. Cancel. After all that work. He didn't answer at first. Then, what if Kincaid shows up? What if parents get scared away? I don't want my kids to be afraid of coming. Denise softened. Jay. This program exists because you refuse to be defined by people like him. Don't let him take this from you. Jayden swallowed. I just don't want to put anyone at risk. You already built something beautiful, she said. And you did it in spite of them. That's strength. That's what those kids need to see. He didn't respond. Not yet. But something inside him steadied a little. Denise stood and wrapped him in a hug. Whatever happens tomorrow, you won't face it alone. Across town, at the police precinct, Officer Kincaid typed aggressively on his desktop keyboard, rainwater still drying on his uniform sleeves. Officer Ramirez walked past, paused and doubled back. Long night? He asked casually. Kincaid grunted. Kids wandering around past midnight. Acting like they're scholars or something. Ramirez raised an eyebrow. Kid at the library. Yeah. Mouthy one. Claimed he was a tutor. Kincaid scoffed. A dropout pretending to be Einstein. Ramirez watched him for a moment. So what's the report for? Kincaid didn't look up. Suspicious behavior. Possible affiliation with theft. Maybe loitering. Maybe. Ramirez repeated. Yeah. We'll see what sticks. Ramirez crossed his arms. Did he do anything illegal? Kincaid's typing slowed. He hesitated when I asked for his bag. That's enough. Hesitation isn't a crime, Ramirez said quietly. Kincaid shot him a look. You questioning me? I'm just saying you have discretion, Ramirez replied. And you've filed similar reports about similar kids. Kincaid's expression hardened. If I don't hold them accountable, no one will. Ramirez exhaled slowly. Or maybe you keep assuming the worst about kids who are just walking home. Kincaid rolled his eyes. Spare me the lecture. He hit save on the report. It's protocol. Ramirez murmured under his breath. Not the way you use it. Kincaid looked up sharply. Come again. Nothing. Ramirez stepped back. Just hope your paperwork reflects exactly what happened. Kincaid smirked. It does. Ramirez didn't respond. Not because he agreed, but because he didn't trust himself to stay calm. Instead he walked away, shoulders tight. Kincaid returned to his typing, finishing the report with a sense of satisfaction. Back home, Jayden sat on the edge of his bed, laptop open. His workshop plans glowing on the screen. Robotics modules. Algebra puzzles. A mini science experiment using vinegar and baking soda. Activities he hoped would spark curiosity. He stared at the page, but his mind returned to the officer's voice. Dropout. Suspicious. Someone who doesn't belong. His throat tightened. He closed the laptop slowly. A knock sounded on his door. Jay. Denise asked softly. You okay? He took a breath. Yeah. Just thinking. She cracked the door open. About tomorrow. About everything. She sat beside him. You don't have to pretend you're fine. Jayden stared at the floor. I worked so hard for this. For them. And one officer can just twist the whole thing. But he didn't, she said. He tried. But you're still here. And the kids will still show up. You're giving them something the world rarely gives freely. Hope. Jayden said quietly. Possibility, she corrected. A chance to see themselves differently. Jayden let out a shaky breath. What if he shows up again? Denise placed a hand on his back. Then we deal with it. Together. Jayden nodded slowly. After a long pause he whispered, "Okay. I'll go ahead with the workshop." Denise smiled gently. "Good." He looked toward his window. The rain had eased into a mist. But a weight still hung in his chest, the kind that came from knowing the world could turn dangerous in a heartbeat. Still, when he finally opened his laptop again, he felt something shift. Not certainty, not confidence, but resolve. The morning broke clearer than Jayden expected, pale sunlight slipping through thin clouds, drying the last of the night's rain. He stood outside the Maple Ridge Community Center with his backpack slung over one shoulder, breathing in the cool air. Kids' voices echoed faintly from inside as they trickled in early. A flutter of nerves moved through him. This is good, he reminded himself. This is why I started the program. Still, Officer Kincaid's voice tugged at the back of his mind like a thread pulling loose. "Dropout. You don't belong." Jayden shook the thoughts away and stepped inside. The room buzzed with energy. Desks arranged in clusters, whiteboards filled with puzzles, posters of planets and circuitry lining the walls. A few students were already seated. A small boy waved enthusiastically. "Jayden, I solved the number riddle you gave us last week." Jayden's face softened. "Let me see." The boy proudly unfolded a crumpled sheet covered in numbers. Jayden scanned it and smiled. "Perfect. You nailed it." A girl nearby asked, "Are we doing the vinegar rocket today?" "Yep," Jayden laughed. "But only if you promise not to launch it into the ceiling this time." "That was one time," she protested. Their laughter melted some of the tension inside him. At the center table, Director Elaine Porter approached with a warm smile. "Morning, Jay. You look tired." "Long night," he admitted. "You okay?" "Yeah," Jayden said lightly. "Just library incident." Elaine's eyes sharpened. "Police again." He nodded. She sighed. "I'm sorry. We'll talk later if you want. For now." She straightened with purpose. "There's something I need to tell you." Jayden frowned. "What?" "We're getting visitors." "What kind of visitors?" She hesitated before saying, "A local news crew." Jayden blinked. "News? For what?" "I might have pitched your program last week," she admitted. "I wanted people to know what you're building here. They're doing a feel-good piece on youth mentorship. They'll only stay a few minutes." Jayden shook his head quickly. "Elaine, I don't want attention." "This is positive attention," she said gently. "Our center could use the spotlight, and your kids deserve recognition." He exhaled. "I don't know. Jay, you created this from scratch." Her voice softened. "Let it shine a little." Before he could respond, the door opened and a woman with a camera stepped in. Behind her was a reporter with a notepad. Jayden stiffened. Elaine whispered, "Just be yourself." The reporter, a young woman with bright eyes, approached him. "Hi, you must be Jayden Carter. We're doing a short segment on community-led youth initiatives." Jayden forced a polite smile. "Oh, okay. Can we record you teaching for a few minutes?" she asked. Jayden nodded, though nerves tightened his chest. "Sure. The kids are just settling in." She stepped back, giving him space, and the camera operator began setting up. Jayden returned to the front of the classroom. "All right, team. Today we're going to learn how to build a chain reaction machine. Anybody know what that is?" Hand shot up. He pointed to a boy in a red hoodie. "Miguel. It's like when one thing makes another thing happen, like dominoes?" "Exactly," Jayden said. "We're building mini contraptions that set each other off. Motion triggers motion." The kids leaned in with excitement. Jayden felt something warm swell in his chest. For a few minutes he forgot everything else. The camera captured him explaining levers, balancing marbles, guiding a girl's hand as she placed a domino carefully on the table. He moved with ease, Gentle, encouraging, confident. The reporter whispered to the camerawoman. He's incredible with them. Jayden overheard, flushing slightly. The front door slammed open. Everyone jumped. Jayden's heart dropped. Officer Kincaid stood in the doorway, scanning the room with icy suspicion. Elaine's face drained of color. "Officer, can we help you?" Kincaid stepped inside. "Heard there was an unsanctioned youth event involving hazardous materials." Jayden blinked. "Hazardous?" Kincaid glared at him. "Chemicals, explosives, kids messing with dangerous substances." Jayden held up a small plastic bottle. "You mean vinegar?" Kincaid's lip curled. "Don't play dumb." The kids shrank back in their seats. The reporter exchanged wide-eyed glances with her camerawoman. Elaine stepped forward quickly. "Officer, this is a supervised educational workshop. Nothing illegal is happening here." Kincaid ignored her, focusing on Jayden. "And you? We're going to settle yesterday's issue right now." Jayden swallowed. "What issue?" "You impersonating an educator," Kincaid snapped. "You running programs without credentials. You lying about tutoring. I pulled your name from the database. No employment records, no official teaching license." Jayden stared at him. "I never claimed to be a licensed teacher." "You implied it," Kincaid shot back. "And pretending to be something you're not. That's fraud." Jayden's voice trembled. "I run a community program. Independently." Kincaid laughed coldly. "A kid like you founding anything. Don't insult me." A hush fell over the room. One of the girls whispered, "Jayden." Jayden inhaled slowly. "Sir, you're misunderstanding." "No," Kincaid interrupted. "I understand perfectly. You're a liar, a manipulator, a high-risk youth pretending to uplift others when you can't even manage yourself." Jayden flinched. Elaine stepped between them. "Officer, that's enough. This is harassment." Kincaid brushed past her. "Step aside." The reporter stepped forward suddenly. "Excuse me, officer. We're recording a feature story on this program. Everything you're saying is on camera." Kincaid froze, then sneered. "Turn it off." "We're on public property during open hours," she replied firmly. "We're allowed to record." Kincaid's jaw twitched. The kids watched silently. Fear on their faces, confusion in their eyes. Jayden felt heat rising up his throat. Embarrassment. Anger. Shame he didn't deserve. Kincaid leaned closer, voice low but venomous. "I warned you yesterday. You don't belong in places like this. And I'll make sure people see it for themselves." Jayden's breath caught. The camera stayed rolling. Elaine stepped to Jayden's side. "He belongs more than you do." Kincaid's expression darkened, but he didn't respond. Not with a reporter present. Not with the kids watching. Not with the camera blinking red. He turned sharply and stormed out, the door slamming behind him. The room exhaled collectively. The reporter whispered, stunned, "That is going to be a story." Jayden swallowed hard, trying to steady himself as the kids watched him, waiting for reassurance. He forced a small smile. "Okay, team. Let's get back to building." But inside, he knew nothing about this day would go back to normal. Not after this. Not now. The workshop never quite recovered its earlier rhythm. Even though Jayden tried to smile, tried to crouch beside the kids' tables and guide their hands through careful steps, the room felt wired, like everyone expected the door to burst open again. Marie, the youngest student, kept glancing over her shoulder. Miguel's domino chain shook because his hands wouldn't stay steady. Jayden knelt beside him. "Hey," he whispered, "you okay?" Miguel bit his lip. "Why does that officer hate you? You're nice." Jayden's chest tightened. "Some people misunderstand things," he said softly. "But that's not your fault. And it's not mine either." Miguel nodded, though he didn't look convinced. Across the room, the reporter checked her camera battery with shaky hands. "Elaine," she murmured to the center director, Is he always like that? Elaine's jaw was set. He's had incidents, complaints. Most get dismissed. And targeting a kid running a tutoring workshop, the reporter whispered. That's something. Elaine didn't answer. She didn't need to. By noon, parents began arriving early, some texting frantically, others slipping quietly into the back of the room. One mother approached Jayden. Are you all right? She asked softly. Yes, he said. I promise the kids are safe. She nodded, but her eyes flicked toward the doorway anyway. We saw the officer outside earlier. Just wanted to check. Jayden forced a reassuring smile. I appreciate that. She squeezed his arm before leaving. Slowly, the workshop's energy rebuilt itself. Kids laughed again as marbles triggered chain reactions. The vinegar rocket fizzed. A domino tower collapsed with a dramatic crash, making the younger kids shriek with delight. Jayden felt a flicker of pride despite the unease lingering beneath his ribs. This is why I do this, he reminded himself. This matters. When the lunch break ended, the reporter approached him. Jayden, she said gently, do you have a minute for an interview? It could help contextualize what happened earlier. His pulse spiked. I'm not sure. It doesn't have to be big, she said. Just a few questions about why you started the program. Elaine stepped in. You don't have to if it makes you uncomfortable. Jayden inhaled deeply. No, it's okay. I should explain what we do here. They sat near the window, sunlight catching the dust in the air like suspended stars. The reporter clicked her pen. So, Jayden, you're 18 and already leading a community gifted prep program. How did this start? Jayden hesitated, then spoke. I had a teacher who believed in me when no one else did. I wanted to give other kids what she gave me, confidence, opportunity, a chance to feel smart. And what about resources? Funding? Jayden smiled faintly. Scraped together. Donations. Some grants we're applying for. A lot of heart. And yesterday's incident? The reporter asked gently. Jayden's throat tightened. It scared me, he admitted. But I'm used to being doubted. I'm used to people assuming the worst. I just didn't want it to affect the kids. The reporter nodded, empathy in her eyes. Thank you for being honest. Jayden exhaled shakily. I just want them to have a chance. Then this story will help, she said. Jayden hoped she was right. But the peace didn't last. Kincaid returned. He didn't burst in dramatically this time. He entered quietly, almost calmly, but with purpose. His steps echoed against the floor, drawing every eye in the room. Jayden's pulse plummeted. Elaine stepped forward immediately. Officer Kincaid, I need you to leave. You're disrupting an educational program. Kincaid held up a clipboard. I'm here to conduct a welfare check. That's not standard protocol, Elaine snapped. He ignored her. His gaze locked onto Jayden. We received a tip that you may be impersonating an educator to access minors. The room froze. What? Jayden whispered. You heard me. Kincaid walked closer. It's illegal to present yourself as a qualified instructor without training. And you've been doing it all week. Jayden's voice trembled. I never claimed to be a licensed teacher. You run a program, Kincaid countered. You call it gifted prep. That implies credentials. The kids stared wide-eyed, confused and scared. Elaine stepped between them again. Officer, this is a volunteer-led program. Jayden has every right to run it. Kincaid's eyes narrowed. Are you officially endorsing his qualifications? I am endorsing the value he provides, she said firmly. Kincaid snorted. Value? He's manipulating minors into thinking he's some genius mentor. And he's using the center to make himself look legitimate. Jayden swallowed hard. Sir, I started this program because kids deserve opportunities. That's all. Kincaid leaned closer. You think you're special? That you can just build some feel-good science camp and be taken seriously? You're a dropout pretending to matter. The words cut deeper this time. Jayden's breath shook. I'm not a dropout. Kincaid waved a dismissive hand. Sure. And I'm a doctor. The camera woman whispered. Are you getting this? Every word, the reporter murmured. Kincaid snapped toward them. Turn that off. The reporter stood tall. We're documenting community work. You walked in on record. And if you air this, Kincaid hissed, you'll be obstructing an active investigation. There is no investigation, the reporter replied calmly. Kincaid glared at her, jaw clenching, but he didn't advance, not with a camera pointed at him. He turned back to Jayden. I'm filing a formal complaint, and when it goes through, this program shuts down. Jayden felt his stomach drop. Why are you doing this? Kincaid's eyes hardened. Because kids shouldn't trust people who lie their way into authority. Jayden whispered. I've never lied. You lied the moment you walked into that library acting like you belong, Kincaid said. A stunned silence swallowed the room. Then Elaine's voice sliced through it. Officer Kincaid, she said coldly. Leave. Now. He stared at her for several seconds, calculating, furious. Finally, he turned sharply and stormed out, the door slamming hard enough to rattle the windows. Jayden's knees weakened. Elaine caught his arm. Sit, she urged softly. He sank into a chair as the kids hovered, their small faces full of confusion. Jayden, Marie whispered. Did we do something wrong? No, Jayden said quickly. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why's he so mean? Another kid asked. Jayden swallowed the lump in his throat. Because some people don't understand what we're trying to do. The reporter approached slowly. Jayden. That wasn't just harassment. That was targeted. He didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat felt tight, his vision damp around the edges. Elaine knelt in front of him. We'll fix this, she said quietly. I promise. He managed a nod. But deep down, as he stared at the door Kincaid had disappeared through, he knew something bigger, more dangerous, had been set in motion. And whatever came next, he wasn't sure he was ready. The workshop ended early. Parents arrived with anxious eyes, ushering their children out quickly but gently. Some murmured words of support to Jayden, short, emotional phrases like, "We're with you," or "Don't let him stop you." But others looked rattled, their fear cracking through their calm expressions as they hurried their kids toward the exit. Jayden watched them go, feeling each goodbye like a small fracture. Elaine placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Jay, go take a breather. I'll finish closing up. He nodded, though his legs felt unsteady. He stepped outside into the corridor, leaning against the cool wall. His hands trembled. His breath came unsteady. The reporter approached cautiously. Jayden, there's something you need to see. He blinked. What do you mean? She held up her phone. Video. Kincaid. In the workshop. The confrontation. Every word captured in crisp audio. And beneath it, already 32,000 views. Jayden's stomach dropped. This was posted already. Not by us, the reporter said. A parent must have uploaded it. It's everywhere. Jayden watched his own face on screen, calm but strained, trying to de-escalate, trying not to provoke. Then Kincaid's voice boomed. You're a dropout pretending to matter. Jayden flinched even though he'd heard it hours earlier. He looked up sharply. Turn it off. The reporter hesitated. Jayden, this could actually help. Turn it off. His voice cracked. She lowered the phone. I'm sorry. It's a lot, I know. He pressed a palm against his forehead. I didn't want this. I didn't want to be a story. But you already are, she said gently. And people are asking questions. Important questions. Elaine joined them, holding a half-packed crate. What's going on? The reporter showed her the video. Elaine watched silently, her jaw clenching more with every second. Good, she finally said. Maybe this time people will listen. Jayden shook his head. Or maybe it just makes everything worse. Elaine set the crate aside. Jay, this isn't your fault. That won't matter to people who already think like him. Before either woman could answer, Jayden's phone buzzed in his pocket. Text. From Ms. Rowell, the assistant librarian. Jayden, are you okay? That officer came by again asking questions. Another message followed immediately. The library director is contacting the city about him. Jayden's breath hitched. Even the library staff were getting dragged into this. Across town, Officer Ramirez sat at his desk scrolling through the same video. Around him, officers whispered in low tones. He overheard fragments. Not a good look. Why'd he say that on camera? Chief is gonna blow a gasket. He's been warned before. Ramirez stood and approached the chief's office. Through the half-closed door, he heard raised voices. The chief's voice was sharp. Kincaid, what in God's name were you thinking? This is all over the internet. Kincaid's tone was defensive, brittle. I was doing my job. Your job, the chief repeated. Your job is not to harass minors running science workshops. He's not certified, Kincaid snapped. He lied. He didn't lie, the chief shot back. He's running a volunteer program. That's legal. Kincaid scoffed. Sure. And I'm supposed to believe some teenager founded an official initiative. You don't have to believe it, the chief said. You just have to stop targeting him. He's hiding something, Kincaid insisted. Kids like him always do. A silence heavier than stone filled the room. Ramirez exhaled. There it is, he thought. The quiet part said out loud. The chief's voice dropped low. Get out of my office. Now. Kincaid stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame rattled. He froze when he saw Ramirez watching him. Something funny, Kincaid growled. Ramirez shook his head. No. Just wondering when you'll realize your instincts aren't instincts. They're prejudice. Kincaid's eyes blazed. Watch yourself. Ramirez turned away. He had nothing left to say. Back at the community center, Jayden sat on the edge of the stage. Sunlight filtered through dusty windows, catching the particles in the air like floating sparks. The reporter sat across from him. Can I ask you something, off record? He nodded. Why did you really start the Carter Leap initiative? Jayden looked down at his hands. Because I was tracked into remedial classes in 7th grade. She frowned. Remedial? But I tested above grade level, he said quietly. But my teacher said I needed to learn discipline before taking on advanced work. So I spent a year doing worksheets I could finish in 10 minutes. Got bored. Started acting out. They used that as proof I didn't belong in gifted programs. But you did, she whispered. He nodded once. A substitute teacher noticed. She fought for me. Hard. Without her, I'd be exactly who people like Kincaid think I am. And now you're giving that chance to others. That's the goal, Jayden murmured. To see talent before bias buries it. The reporter sat in silence for a moment, visibly moved. Jayden, she said slowly, would you be open to sharing your background in our story? Not the confrontation, your achievements, your program, your academic work. Jayden hesitated. What achievements? She pulled out her tablet and turned it toward him. He froze as he read the screen. Carter Leap Initiative, founder. Jayden Carter, early college STEM enrollment, a state math competition finalist, a robotics mentorship volunteer, youth advocacy grant recipient, shortlisted. He blinked. How did you find all this? It's public record, she said. You've built something remarkable. People should know. Jayden swallowed hard. I didn't think anyone cared. They will now. Within hours, local news outlets published stories. Teen STEM mentor harassed by officer during workshop. Community rallies behind young program founder. Video raises questions about police bias against youth educators. Jayden saw his name trending. He closed the browser quickly. His chest ached, not from pride, not from fear, but from a painful mixture of both. Elaine approached him gently. "Jay, the mayor's office called." Tensed. "Why?" "They want to meet you." Jayden stared at her. "They saw the story," she said. "They want to support the initiative." Jayden felt his breath hitch again. "But I didn't ask for any of this." "I know," Elaine said softly. "But sometimes justice starts when the truth gets pulled into the light. Even when you didn't want it to." Jayden didn't answer. He looked down at his hands. Hands that built lesson plans. Hands that lifted kids up. Hands that shook under the shadow of a man who saw him as nothing. Now those same hands were part of something bigger than he ever intended. Something he couldn't walk away from. The next morning, Jayden woke to the sound of his phone buzzing non-stop. Missed calls, voicemails, endless notifications. His mother tapped gently on the door. "Jay, you need to eat something." He sat up slowly, rubbing the heaviness from his eyes. "Mom, something's happening." Denise walked in, concern etched into her face. "The news, right?" Jayden nodded, showing her the notifications. "It's everywhere. Articles, messages, people asking for interviews." She sat beside him. "This is a lot for anyone, especially you. But you didn't do anything wrong." "I know," he whispered. "But now it feels like everything is spiraling. I didn't want to start a fight." "You didn't," Denise said firmly. "The fight was already there. You just got caught in the middle." Jayden leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Mom, what if there's backlash? What if Kincaid retaliates?" She hesitated before answering. "Then we deal with it. The way we've dealt with everything else. Together." Her calmness grounded him, but only barely. Across town, inside the police precinct, the atmosphere was tense. Officer Ramirez sat at his desk scrolling through another article when the chief stormed out of his office. "Ramirez," he said sharply. "With me." Ramirez followed him into a smaller meeting room. The chief shut the door. "Internal Affairs is opening a formal review," the chief said. "We're pulling Kincaid's body cam tapes, radio logs, and previous reports." Ramirez wasn't surprised. "Good. He's been crossing lines for years. This one might finally stick," the chief said. "The public is demanding accountability." Ramirez crossed his arms. "And what do you need from me?" "To be honest," the chief said pointedly. "No hedging. No covering. Tell IA exactly what you've seen." Ramirez nodded. "I will. I've watched him escalate situations that didn't need escalating. And the way he talked about that kid yesterday." "Don't repeat it," the chief muttered. "I heard enough." Ramirez exhaled slowly. "Chief, if Kincaid gets suspended, he's going to be furious. He's not the type to take consequences quietly." "I know," the chief said. "Keep an eye on him. And an eye on the Carter boy too. This could get political fast." Meanwhile, Jayden sat in Elaine's office at the community center, nervously twisting a rubber band between his fingers. Elaine closed her laptop after reading another update. "It's official. The city has called for a town hall meeting. They want to address concerns raised by community police interactions." Jayden's stomach dropped. "Town hall? As in public?" "Yes," Elaine said. "And they want you to speak." "Me?" Jayden's voice cracked. "I'm just a tutor." "I'm not." "You are exactly the person they need to hear from," Elaine said gently. "Your experience highlights something larger than a single incident." Jayden shook his head. "I don't know if I can stand in front of a room like that. What if people attack me? What if Kincaid is there?" Elaine rested a hand on his shoulder. "Then speak the truth. The world is already listening." Jayden swallowed hard. "I didn't want all of this." "I know," she said softly. "But sometimes justice doesn't ask if you're ready." The door creaked open. Officer Ramirez stood in the doorway, not in uniform but in plain clothes. Wariness edged his features. Jayden Carter. Jayden stiffened instantly. Yes. Ramirez raised both hands in a calming gesture. I'm not here on duty. I'm here because you deserve to know what's happening. Elaine crossed her arms protectively. What do you want to tell him? Ramirez stepped inside. Kincaid's being investigated. Officially. Jayden's heart jolted. Investigated. For misconduct. Use of authority to intimidate minors. A lot of people have submitted complaints since yesterday's video. Jayden blinked. People. As in, multiple. Ramirez nodded. Your story gave others the courage to come forward. A heavy silence fell. Elaine whispered. Finally. Jayden stared at the floor. I didn't mean to start anything. You didn't start it, Ramirez said quietly. But you brought light to it. That matters. Jayden looked up. Is he angry? Ramirez hesitated. Very. He thinks he's the victim here. Jayden's stomach tightened. Is he dangerous? Ramirez paused. I'll put it this way. Don't walk anywhere alone for a few days. Jayden's breath hitched. So it is dangerous. I'm being honest, Ramirez said. Not to scare you. To protect you. Elaine stepped closer. Thank you for telling us. Ramirez nodded once. A lot of officers don't agree with what he did. Don't think you're alone in this. But Jayden didn't feel relief. Not really. Because even if the system was beginning to crack, the weight of a lifetime of doubt and fear pressed down on him. That evening, Jayden lay on his bed staring at the ceiling. His phone buzzed again. Community Town Hall, tomorrow 6 p.m., you're invited to speak. He dropped the phone onto the blanket. Denise knocked softly. Sweetheart. Jayden didn't move. Mom, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I embarrass myself? What if the room turns on me? She sat beside him, brushing his hair back gently. Jayden, for years you've spoken for kids who can't speak for themselves. You've defended them, guided them, protected them. I'm not good at speeches, he murmured. You don't need to be good. You need to be honest. He swallowed. What if honesty isn't enough? Denise took his hand. It's more than enough. Jayden exhaled shakily. And what if Kincaid is there? Then he'll hear you, Denise said quietly. Maybe for the first time in his life. Jayden closed his eyes. The image of Kincaid leaning over him, spitting the word dropout, replayed like a bruise he couldn't protect. Could he really stand in front of a crowd and speak about that? About the fear, the humiliation, the injustice? He wasn't sure. But he also knew something had shifted, something bigger than his fear. The truth was out now. The city was watching. The system was trembling. And Jayden Carter, whether he liked it or not, was at the center of the storm. The community auditorium was already buzzing when Jayden arrived with his mother. Reporters clustered near the back. Parents sat with arms tightly folded. Elderly residents whispered among themselves. A few officers lingered by the walls, their expressions unreadable. Jayden's heartbeat thudded in his ears. Denise squeezed his hand. Just breathe. Elaine spotted them from the front row and waved them over. Jayden, you made it. I said I would, he murmured, though his legs felt unsteady. You don't have to carry this alone, she said quietly. Look around. People came because they care. He scanned the room. Faces of children he'd mentored. Parents who trusted him. Teachers who knew his story. Community volunteers. Folks he'd never met but who somehow believed in him anyway. It steadied him, but only a little. The mayor stepped to the podium. Thank you all for coming. Tonight is about addressing the concerns raised by the recent incident at the community center. We will hear from residents, the police department, and, if he is willing, the young man at the heart of this conversation. Whispers rippled through the auditorium. Jayden inhaled sharply. One by one, citizens stepped up to speak. A middle-aged man spoke first. Officer Kincaid pulled me over last year for a broken taillight. My kids cried in the back seat because he acted like I'd robbed a bank. A woman followed. He questioned my son for waiting for the bus. Said he looked like trouble. My boy was 14. Voices rose and fell. Shaking, angry, tired. Jayden listened, heart tightening with each testimony. It wasn't just him. The cracks in the system were deeper than he'd imagined. Then the mayor said, "If Jayden Carter is willing, we'd like to invite him to speak." Jayden froze. Denise squeezed his hand again. "Go." His legs felt heavy as he stood. The walk to the podium felt impossibly long, the microphone impossibly close. Every eye in the room followed him. He took a slow breath. "I'm not used to speaking in places like this," he began, voice trembling. "But I'll try." The room fell silent. Officer Kincaid saw me at the library last night. He saw my hoodie, my backpack, the time of night, and he made assumptions. Jayden swallowed. He didn't see a tutor or a mentor or someone building a program for kids. He saw what he expected to see. Jayden's gaze swept the room. No one moved. "I've been underestimated before. I've been told I wasn't gifted, wasn't serious, wasn't capable. Sometimes it was subtle. Sometimes it wasn't. But it hurts every time." His voice cracked. "And when you're constantly treated like you're suspicious just for existing, it wears you down." A murmur of agreement rippled. "I didn't start the Carter Leap initiative to be impressive," he continued. "I started it because I know what it feels like to be dismissed. And I wanted kids to feel the opposite, to feel seen, encouraged, capable." His eyes glistened. "But when Officer Kincaid barged into my workshop and called me a dropout, when he told me I didn't belong, those kids hurt him. They watched him tear down the person they trusted." Several parents nodded, anger flashing in their eyes. "I'm not here to attack him," Jayden said, voice softening. "I'm here to say that what happened wasn't just about me. It was about every kid who's been labeled before anyone bothered to know them. Every parent scared their child will be next. Every voice that stayed quiet because speaking up felt dangerous." Jayden paused. "And I'm tired of pretending this is normal." A wave of emotion moved through the room. A loud voice cut through the silence. "Are you finished?" Officer Kincaid stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, jaw tight. The audience stiffened. Jayden's breath caught. Kincaid pushed through the rows, stepping closer. "You're all just eating up his little speech, huh?" A room full of people taking the word of some troublemaking kid over a police officer doing his job. The mayor raised a hand. "Officer Kincaid, please." "No," Kincaid snapped. "I won't sit here while he spreads lies." "It wasn't lies," someone shouted. Another voice. "We saw the video." Kincaid's face reddened. "The video shows nothing. He was acting suspicious. He's been pretending to be some prodigy." "I never pretended." Jayden shot back before he realized he'd spoken. Kincaid sneered. "Oh please. A teenager running a gifted program? Who believes that? You fooled them because they wanted to be fooled." Sudden hush fell. Kincaid didn't notice the live news camera still recording beside the stage. He kept talking. "You're not special, kid. You're just another liar who—" "That's enough." It was the police chief, stepping forward. Kincaid spun toward him. "Chief, you've said more than enough," the chief said, voice like stone. "As of this moment, Officer Kincaid, you are suspended pending full investigation." Gasps filled the room. Kincaid's face drained. "You can't." "I can," the chief said. "And I will." Kincaid turned toward Jayden, fury burning in his eyes, but for the first time he said nothing. He shoved through the crowd and stormed out. Silence followed. Then applause, soft at first, then swelling. Not triumphal but grateful, hopeful, united. Jayden stood there trembling, overwhelmed. Denise rushed up and embraced him. "You did it," she whispered. Jayden shook his head. "No, The community did. Elaine touched his shoulder. You spoke truth. That's more powerful than anything he said. Jayden didn't feel triumphant. He felt exhausted. Suppose. But for the first time, he also felt heard. For a few days after the town hall, Jayden could barely keep up with messages, emails, voicemails, requests from journalists, school administrators, community leaders. Some were supportive. Your courage inspires my son. Thank you for telling the truth. Your program saved my daughter's confidence. Some were hateful. He stopped opening those. But many were from kids. Kids from the workshop, from neighboring schools, from places Jayden had never even heard of. Can you help me learn math too? Are you doing more classes? Do you have space for me? Those messages steadied him. They reminded him why he'd started all of this in the first place. Yet even small victories carried weight. His sleep was shallow. Sirens made his heart race. Walking alone at night became unthinkable. He didn't tell his mother how deeply the encounter had settled into his nerves. She could already see it on his face. Denise held him one morning as he sat at the kitchen table, untouched toast growing cold in front of him. You went through something traumatic, she said softly. You don't have to bounce back overnight. Jayden looked down. I just don't want people thinking I'm weak. Baby, she whispered. You stood in a room full of strangers and told them what he did to you. You faced him head-on. Strength doesn't mean being unshaken. It means standing even when you are. Jayden nodded, though a knot remained tight in his chest. Meanwhile, the city moved quickly. Officer Kincaid's suspension became national news. Articles dug through his past complaints. Nothing defamatory, nothing unverified, but enough to paint a troubling pattern. Internal Affairs summoned former complainants, many of whom had remained silent for years. Now they weren't silent. A local civil rights organization issued a statement. This investigation must be thorough and transparent. The community deserves better than unchecked authority. The police chief held a press conference. No officer is above accountability. Misconduct will be addressed. Kincaid said nothing publicly, but Ramirez overheard enough around the department to know the man was spiraling. Angry. Blaming everyone but himself. Still, the city had taken a stance. And for once, the momentum wasn't on Kincaid's side. One afternoon, Jayden received an email that made him drop his pencil. Subject: Grant proposal accepted. Carter Leap Initiative. The message read, We are pleased to inform you that your program has been selected for funding. The committee was deeply moved by your mission and your dedication to underserved youth. Jayden blinked at the screen, barely breathing. He reread it twice. Then a third time. Mom! He yelled, scrambling out of his chair. Denise rushed in. What happened? Are you okay? He spun the laptop toward her. We got the grant. Her hands flew to her mouth. Oh my God, Jayden, this is huge. He laughed shakily. We can expand. Buy materials. Rent a bigger room. Maybe even hire part-time mentors. Denise pulled him into a fierce hug. I'm so proud of you. For the first time in weeks, Jayden felt something blooming in his chest. Not fear, not defense, but hope. A week later, Jayden walked into the community center for the first workshop since the town hall. Parents greeted him warmly. Kids rushed up with excited chatter. Miguel held out a stack of fresh dominoes. We got these for you. My mom said your program deserves proper equipment. Marie tugged his sleeve. Are we making rockets today? Jayden smiled, overwhelmed. Yeah. We'll make whatever you want. As the class settled in, the reporter from before slipped in quietly. She nodded a small hello. Jayden approached her. You didn't have to come. I wanted to, she replied. Your story is still unfolding. I thought you should know something. He frowned. What? The police chief confirmed that Kincaid will face formal charges. Filing false reports. Abuse of authority. Intimidation of a minor. There's enough evidence to move forward. Jayden swallowed. It feels strange. Strange how? Like I didn't want revenge, he said softly. I just wanted him to stop. The reporter nodded. What's happening isn't revenge. It's consequences. Jayden exhaled slowly. I guess. Her voice softened. How are you doing? He looked at the kids laughing across the room. Better, he said. Not perfect, but better. She smiled. If you ever want to tell more of your story, my mic is open. He nodded. Maybe one day. When the workshop ended, Jayden stepped outside alone for the first time since the incident. The sun was warm. Air calm. For once, no police cars lingered nearby, no cold eyes watching him. He sat on the steps, closing his eyes as sunlight washed over him. He still carried the weight of it, the humiliation, the fear, the disbelief. Trauma didn't disappear just because the world acknowledged it. But his story had sparked something bigger than himself. Kids felt inspired. Parents felt seen. Officials felt pressure to reform. The town felt awakened. Jayden opened his eyes slowly. Sometimes justice wasn't loud. Sometimes it wasn't satisfying. Sometimes it was simply acknowledgement. Shift. Crack in the wall. And sometimes it was the quiet triumph of continuing to build a future, even when someone tried to tear you down. His mother joined him, sitting beside him on the steps. You thinking about everything? She asked. Yeah, he said softly. Everything. She leaned her head against his shoulder. You've changed more than you know. Jayden didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a boy who had survived a moment he shouldn't have had to face. But he also felt this. He was still here. And he was still building. And that was its own kind of justice.